I should say, even though my last name is Gardner, I'm not a gardener. And I had one patient who wanted to have somebody come to help him garden. And I said, what the heck, I'm absolutely open to learning. So I would show up each week, and he would, at first we gardened together, and then as he progressed, he would sit at the edge of the rows of the garden and tell me what to do. And then it got so that he had to be inside at his window, and he would direct me on how to take care of the garden. And then he was in his bed, and they would roll the bed up to the window so that he could continue to tell me what to do to help out with the garden. And I fortunately got enough experience, so then I would just take care of his garden and go report back to him, you know, the status of the garden. And when he began to transition, the family actually put in a request to have me present. So I showed up, and he was in the active process of dying. And I was just there I first would talk with each of the family members, and a lot of them had not had a break. They had spent so much time right there at his bedside. So I suggested that maybe they wanted to go just be in the kitchen, which was right outside the bedroom. I'll stay with him, and they can just get a cup of coffee and a moment to get a breather. And they did, and they spent some time out there, and they really appreciated having that break, knowing that I was there, and I would let them know if anything was changing. And it was actually quite fast, the transition, because I'd say within an hour or two of being there, I noticed him shift, and so I called them back in. And we were all around his bed when he took his last breath. And I said, he's still here, even though he's not breathing. So just let's stay here for a while. And he opened his eyes, and he looked right at his wife. And I said, now tell him what you need to tell him, because he can hear you very well. And so she told him, I love you, and it's okay to go. And he, after hearing that, he went to his son, and he went to his granddaughter. He went around the bed to each person, looking at them. And they all had a moment to say what they needed to say. And then he just laid back, and that was it. And a year later, it was a big memorial for him, and I went to it. And his wife was in her 90s and somewhat fragile, and I wasn't sure if she would remember me. I was there mostly with him as opposed to her, except for the last day. And I went up, and I knelt down, and I took her hand, and I said, I don't know if you remember me. And she cut me off, and she said, how could I ever forget the stranger who came into my home and made one of the most difficult moments of my life possible for me to work through. And I have to say that's probably the most powerful experience I've had in hospice, was that realization of what I was doing. Just being present in those very difficult moments can make such a difference. You don't know sometimes if you are making a difference. And that's okay. You learn to just be there anyway. But that's when I realized that this was the right thing for me to do. This was kind of, I guess you would call it a calling.